told you before, I use this metaphor with precision and with great intention, that one of the great parts of being a part of TBJ is that I call ourselves a teaching hospital. Very much like those of you who practice medicine know the importance of raising up young interns and residents into great doctors. We believe it's part of our role here to also raise up young rabbis into wonderful, well-rounded rabbis. I'm going to let the speaker speak for herself in a moment, but I want to tell you that the person who's going to speak to you tonight, although did not grow up specifically in this congregation, her family certainly did, and she'll tell you what that means in a moment. Many of you remember and know with love the name Sandy Newman, who's the speaker's grandmother. And Sandy, I've been feeling all day her presence here, and her smile and her countenance shining down upon us, especially at this moment. So it is my great pleasure to call on Sarah Lipsey Brokman, who is here to offer words of Torah. I would call her a rabbinic intern of types this year. She'll be appearing on the Bima several times this year and will be the first American student who is going to be ordained by a rabbinic Israeli program. She's meshugana enough that she goes, I think it's every 3 weeks? Every 6 weeks she goes and spends like 10 days in Israel to do her studies and then does so over Zoom from here. But we're her American-based congregation. We're lucky to be that. So I'm so proud to welcome Sarah Brokman.
So my name is Sarah Lipsey Brokman, and standing here today feels like a full circle moment in the deepest sense. I was given my Hebrew name in this sanctuary 39 years ago. TBJ is where my parents met and fell in love. It was the spiritual home of all my grandparents, especially my beloved grandmother, Sandy Newman, of blessed memory. This pulpit carries not just Torah, but my family's story, my earliest sense of belonging, and my first encounters with what it means to stand inside a Jewish community and try to find one's voice. And I say try deliberately, because standing here now, speaking into a microphone, feels almost ironic, given the Torah portion we read this week. When given the opportunity to give the sermon tonight, I felt excited, but also a heavy weight of responsibility. What if what I say doesn't touch people? What if I disappoint the generations of family who came before me in this sanctuary? Parshat Shmot opens with a surprising problem. The man chosen to lead redemption, to lead our ancestors from slavery to freedom, to our promised land, does not believe he can speak well enough to do so. At the burning bush, Moses resists his calling. I am not a man of words, he says. I am slow of speech and slow of tongue. Moses isn't making a poetic excuse here. He is voicing a real human fear. Many of us recognize this feeling, not just fear of public speaking, but the deeper fear that our voice itself is inadequate, that we are not articulate enough, confident enough, or fluent enough to matter. We all have experienced this when given a presentation at work or school, or asking someone out on a date, or even maybe giving their first sermon. The commentators debate what Moses means by being slow of speech. Ibn Ezra, the 12th century Sephardic commentator, understands this as the physical speech impediment. Ramban, also known as Nachmanides, reads it psychologically. Fear, trauma, or lack of confidence shaped by years of displacement and violence. Moses was raised as a child in the palace with the daughter of Pharaoh, but he also had a connection to his birth mother, Yocheved. This dichotomy may have contributed to Moses' feelings of inadequacy. But what matters most is not the diagnosis. What matters is God's response. God does not heal Moses' speech. God does not correct him. God adapts. God finds a way to help Moses be the great leader of the Jewish people he was born to be, even with a speech impediment. Aaron, Moses' brother, becomes God's voice. Moses becomes God's presence. Redemption, the Torah insists, does not require perfect speech. It requires partnership. At first, that partnership exists between God and Moses. Moses is chosen to lead the Israelites out of Egypt, yet he resists again and again, doubting his own capacity to speak and to lead. God does not replace him. Instead, God promises presence. I will be with you, God says, and asks Moses to trust the journey. As the book of Exodus unfolds, this partnership expands. Redemption becomes a shared endeavor among Moses, God, and the people themselves. This becomes even clearer when we notice something else in the Parsha. Moses struggles to speak, and the Israelites struggle to listen. Oppression damages both voice and hearing. When people are exhausted, afraid, and overwhelmed, even the most hopeful words can feel far away. Slavery narrows the imagination. It makes it difficult to hear possibility. Under such conditions, survival becomes the primary language, leaving little room for trust or vision. Freedom, then, does not begin with eloquence or persuasion, but with the slow rebuilding of the capacity to listen. Redemption requires not only a message of hope, but a people who can once again imagine that hope might be meant for them. And yet something striking remains true. Moses never becomes a great speaker. The Torah never tells us that his speech improves or that his confidence grows. What changes is not Moses' speech. What changes is the world around him. And this is where Parshat Shemot meets our lives, especially our lives as parents. Many of us have tried to talk our children into doing the right thing. We explain, we reason, we offer careful speeches at the dinner table, in the car, at bedtime, and sometimes our words simply don't land. Not because our children are defiant, but because they're tired, overwhelmed, or still learning how to listen. And then, often without realizing it, they learn something else entirely, not from what we say, but from what we do. They learn how to apologize because they see us apologize. They learn how to stand up for someone because they watch us do it. They learn what matters because we keep showing up for it, even imperfectly. This is the Torah of Moses and Aaron lived out in our families' lives. Moses stands, Aaron speaks, and meaning emerges from the partnership. Our children do not need us to be flawless or endlessly articulate. They need us to be present, consistent, and aligned. They need to see that values are not only spoken, but engaged again and again. And yes, as adults, we also need this reminder. Parshat Shemot reminds us that leadership does not belong only to the fluent, the confident, or the polished. Moral authority does not require perfect words. It requires persistence, humility, and the courage to act, even when our voice feels small. Shemot teaches us that freedom does not wait for perfect messengers. It begins with imperfect people, parents, teachers, and community members, speaking together, acting together, insisting that power is not absolute and that dignity matters. And that justice, however haltingly spoken, will have the final word. Shabbat Shalom.